With the WNBA Finals coming to an end, the start of the 2021-2022 NBA season on Tuesday night comes at just the right time. Hello everyone and welcome back to another edition of Penn State Sports Night. I'm Lexy Lideline, joined by Zach Gershman and Joe Callahan. Tonight we will look into the battle between the Chicago Sky and the Phoenix Mercury in the WNBA Finals, as well as the much anticipated beginning to the fast approaching NBA season. So gentlemen, let's get into it. The Chicago Sky wins their first franchise in history and on their home court, going up against the Phoenix Mercury with two powerhouse all-time NBA players, WNBA players, Diana Taurasi and Brittney Griner. How'd they do it?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's two reasons. Number one is their defensive scheme. You know that Brittney Griner is going to get her licks. You know that she's going to get either 20 or 30 points in between there at some point. So when you go into games like this, you know that that player is going to get her licks, but can you stop the role players? Can Taurasi beat you? Can Diggins Smith beat you? And the answer is no, they cannot. And the reason why is because they were doubling Brittney Griner in the paint, and obviously you know that she's going to get her fades, she's going to get her post fades, she's going to get her jump shots. But the point is, can Taurasi from outside beat you? Can she drive with Griner staying in there? And the answer was no. And the other role players, they only had two games in which three players had 10 or more shot attempts. And if we look at the other side on the Sky, it was like a light clinic. There was literally every game had at least three players with 10 or more shot attempts. I mean, one day Copper was going off, obviously wins the MVP, Parker goes off, and then the close out game was Quinby's game where she went 5 for 10 from three. So you understand that Griner's going to get her points, she's going to get her licks, but can the surrounding cast beat you? It was the Sky's surrounding cast that could beat the Mercury, but it was not the Mercury's that could beat the Sky.
Yeah, I mean, Brittney Griner was the dominant force for the Mercury, and they didn't really have anybody else that was going to take her spot when she needed to go to the bench. She's a baller. We've known that since college. We've seen it all throughout her WNBA career. But with the Sky, they beat her at her own game. 16 points per game more on average than the Mercury did in that final series, which was absolutely incredible. But on the Sky side of things, you mentioned it, Kahleah Copper, stand up, North Philly, represent, because she balled out this series. In that second to last game, in game 4, she really made it her game. She knew what she had to do, game 3 rather, and that's when they blew out the Mercury. There was nobody else going to stop it. That's when the momentum shifted. That the last game, it didn't really matter because they lost their momentum. When they flew to Chicago, the Windy City, the winds went right out of their sails because it was not happening over there. Candace Parker, who we'll talk about in a little bit, showing up for her hometown team. It was a Cinderella story, and as Lexy mentioned, the first trophy in franchise history.
Okay, you both mentioned a key storyline, Candace Parker coming to win a championship in her hometown. Also, before the playoffs, ranked one of the top 10 greatest WNBA players of all time. So, does this win in her hometown justify that spot on this list?
I think so, and the reason why I think so, she was ranked as number 9. And whether she jumps to number 8, whether it's number 7, she might even go back. Who knows? But in my opinion, she's got to go up on that list because the number one player on that ESPN list was Diana Taurasi, who she played against. And Diana said she's the toughest player she's ever had to play against. And when the GOAT of the WNBA says that, you don't take that stuff for lightly. She made it. She was voted in 2019, 2 years ago. She was voted by her peers, which I don't even know why this is a vote, as the most overrated player. She was benched. She then came to her hometown 2 years later and brought a trophy. And it was a Cinderella story, as previously mentioned. She ran over to her family. She embraced them. She called over her daughter. And it was an emotional moment for everybody involved. She showed up for her hometown. And that's something you can never take for granted. But when Diana Taurasi, the number one player in WNBA history, says that that's the toughest player she ever had to play against, you got to put her up on that list.
See, I disagree. And the reason why is when you look at the top 8 players above her. Reason why. There's 4 championships, multiple finals MVPs, and multiple league MVPs in that stout 8. Where are you moving her up? The only players to not have that pedigree is Tamika Catchings, which she is top 10 in points, rebounds, assists, and steals. So you have to put her in top 3. The next one was Sue Bird, who was at number 8, who was only the best point guard to ever grace a WNBA roster. So when I'm sitting here and I'm looking at a player that was drafted in 2008, Rookie of the Year, a Finals MVP in 2016, and then a second Finals, not MVP, but a Finals win, I don't know if I can put her ahead of people that have, there's players that have won four championships in a row. There's players that have, 3 Finals MVPs, multiple season MVPs. I don't know if I can put Parker above that. Does it help her in the future for her to jump up? Of course. Another Finals will always help that. But the point is, when you look at the top 8 players above her, there is nobody on that list that I would put her ahead, so I believe that she stays at 9, but I will say that I think that she's going to get another championship under her belt. I will predict that she will be the MVP of that series, and then she would move up in the list to about 6 or 7.
I think you both made some really good points and justified your answers very well. But now I'm going to say, as one chapter ends, another begins. Let's look into the NBA. The 2021-22 season kicks off Tuesday night with the Bucks, last year's champions, and the Nets. So, Joe, how do you think this is going to play out?
Well, the storyline is, can we get Kyrie on the court? Where's his motive? I don't know. I understand the point of not getting vaccinated. You could choose what you want to do. That's a whole nother argument for a whole nother debate and a whole nother day. But the point is that the main storyline is when these big 3 come onto the court, it's lights out. There's nobody that can beat them. KD, the pedigree that happens, the championships, going to the Warriors, and coming here to try to revitalize the Nets. James Harden, if when he was on Houston, he came between a CP3 injury to going and beating the best team ever assembled. And now he joins one of the players on the best team ever assembled. And if you have the third counterpart, who is the best handler of the ball to ever grace the court, it's unstoppable. But right now, you can't get that. But even without that, if you forget Kyrie's existence and you hobble James Harden, KD came within a toenail of kicking this team off of the court and into probably a finals berth. I don't know if they would have beat the Suns, but if you could get a healthy James Harden into that series, it is a foregone conclusion that the Nets win that series. So what I'm looking for is in the Nets is I'm trying to see how that meshes well without Kyrie. Obviously, we saw it in Boston, not a championship, but we saw it in Boston. We saw it in Cleveland after he left. Teams can win without him. And when you go up with James Harden, pedigree, KD, pedigree, we obviously know that what they can do. But the role players around them, if they can shine. And the other thing, if I'm working at the Bucks, they're saying that Giannis has a new jump shot now. Have you seen that in the preseason? He's pulling up from 3. Yeah, he's pulling up from 3 like he's James Harden or Damian Lillard. And he's 7 foot, and it's literally, we were talking about him in the same conversation that we were talking about Ben Simmons. If you compare Ben Simmons and Giannis, and to the criticism that they have, it's almost identical. But the mind is the difference, the mind. He can work on a jump shot. So I want to see if he can work with that. And the only other thing that I have with the question was, in the series last year, PJ Tucker was the one that was guarding KD. Now he's gone. Who do you put on KD? Does Giannis guard KD? Does Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday guard KD? How does that big 3 handle that guy? Because again, you know that KD is going to get his touches. He's going to get his points. But the little bit of disruption to keep him at bay from PJ Tucker worked. Now you have to see who that player is going to be.
All right, now we head over to the second game of the night. The Los Angeles Lakers taking on the Golden State Warriors. Los Angeles sits at the bottom of the preseason with an 0-6 record, while the Golden State Warriors sit at the top with a 5-0. Zach, how do you think this game's going to play out?
Preseason is as relevant as Ben Simmons' jump shot. It doesn't really matter. Just because you brought about Ben Simmons, who hopefully we don't have to talk about in future segments. But with this game, West Coast basketball is back. I'm so hype about that, and it's because the 4 people that we had pictured, they're all going to be on the court at the same time. It's not an all-star game. It's opening night. You got the big 3, the new big 3 in L.A., one side of the Staples Center being the Los Angeles Lakers.
Bringing in Russell Westbrook is a huge acquisition for that team, as if they didn't need it anymore. Now LeBron's going back to headband number 6. AD, hopefully you could stay on the court if you're a Lakers fan. But Steph Curry, oh my God, if we're going to talk about preseason, let's talk about the last preseason game that Steph Curry had 41 points. He's in midseason form in the preseason. That's unheard of. No rust from him. He had some rest with the Warriors, not really advancing at all last year. Now, Steph Curry is going to continue leading this team, and you're going to have Klay Thompson back in just a couple months. So as a basketball fan, a West Coast basketball fan, you have to be so excited about this. And the fact that the NBA is opening up with these two big games, these two big marquee games, you can't ask for a better start to the 2021-2022 season.
Well, I think you both made some really good observations and predictions, and I'm really excited to see if they're a slam dunk or an air ball. Well, that's all we have on this NBA preview for Penn State Sports Night. For Zach Gershman and Joe Callahan, I'm Lexy Lideline. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for watching this edition of Penn State Sports Night. If you're a fan of our content, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more clips. Also, follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action. For all my colleagues, we are Penn State Sports Night.